Coffee with Chris.
Hi guys, welcome back to another interview with some of our clients, the great and the good from across the country. Today I'm joined with my good friend, the owner of Vaughn, hard to say if you're from Grantham, Wrexham, but Beaver in Welsh is apparently something completely different. Vaughn Schofield. Hi Vaughn.
Hey Chris, how are you?
Awesome, mate, awesome. In this current circumstance, as good as can be. So how are you finding things?
We're sailing through uncharted waters, so everything is new. There's nothing that you can rely on in terms of experience. This is one situation where experience counts for nothing at all, because everybody is experiencing each situation for the first time. So it's been interesting. It's been novel. It's been at times slightly frightening. All of those things. So there's been a mixture of experiences and quite honestly a mixture of emotions as well. But it's certainly been a learning curve, and a very steep one.
In terms of we've found some resilience. We've also had to swallow some difficult circumstance. I had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday where we were saying that, as a business owner like yourself and us, if you make a bad business decision and you lose some money, or your business starts to fold or fail because you've actively done something that's contributed to that, then you can almost swallow that. But it becomes harder when the rug's effectively pulled out from under you through no fault of your own. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, of course. I think the biggest fear of any business owner is that you take either a poor judgment call, or that circumstances around you create a perfect storm. I mean, by around you, I mean within the locality you operate in, create a perfect storm that make it difficult or impossible for you to do any business. That is anybody's, worst nightmare, worst scenario. But this has appeared from nowhere, left field.
Yeah.
Never before has something like this happened. Not since, even before the time I was born. The Spanish flu is the thing that keeps on being quoted. So it's. I have to say though, even though you would say it's not going to be anybody's responsibility, it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any less painful if and when that would happen, because the implications, the consequences of it will still be the same. But it's certainly, I think it's taken everybody by surprise. It's taken everybody by surprise, even though now I see film clips of world leaders mentioning this as a potential threat. Back even in 2014, George Bush was mentioning it then as a potential threat, that we should get ready and prepared for it. Bill Gates was mentioning this in 2015. But I've got to be honest, I was never conscious of it. I can't believe it was given any kind of publicity then to the wider community. I guess only professionals operating in that field would possibly even know about it.
Yeah.
So it's come from like a bolt from the blue.
In terms of continuing to run your business through this, are you doing that? How are you doing that? Have you furloughed staff? What's your process been?
We furloughed staff. 2/3 of our staff are furloughed, and we've got 4 people now working in the business. Myself, my wife, and 2 other colleagues. It's still made us very busy because we're still getting, I would say, we're still getting 70% of the work that we normally get through. But of course, we've only got 1/3 of the resource now to actually service that workload.
Yeah.
So it means we've been very busy. And at the same time, I'm trying to learn learn in terms of what's the best way to react to the situation. So that means everything from trying to take advantage of the headroom, the thinking headroom that this kind of opportunity gives you in terms of what we can do, but also it gives you headroom in terms of preparing for that day when you actually go back into the office. And I think that's a key thing. I've been somewhat alarmed, concerned, surprised even, when I do get onto many meetings via Zoom, particularly with other letting agents and estate agents, how many people, I'm not saying it's a majority necessarily, but a significant number of agents and letting agents did certainly in the first few weeks have an attitude which basically said, well, we've closed the shop, there's nothing we can do now. We are almost passively waiting until we can go back in, and there's nothing more we can do. And I really worry if anybody has maintained that attitude, because I think that's a one-way system towards ruin.
How have you adapted?
Sorry?
Then? How have you adapted then? So if you haven't been on your laurels,
okay,
what have you been engaging in? How have you filled your time?
Okay, we filled that time initially by making sure that the communication, certainly between the 4 members of the team, is very clear and current, and that takes place through a meeting very much like the one we're having now every morning. And that takes the best part of an hour, slightly more sometimes. We've also coped with making all pre-existing move-ins happen online, something which we've never thought of before, and it's such a simple idea. You get them to sign contracts online. They get to send passport ID photos to us, but we ratify that. We verify that ID by then making a FaceTime call to the person to ensure they are the person on the driving license or the passport. Mm-hmm. We also have got we've got quite creative in our thinking.
Good.
In the sense that on the letting side of the business, we try to think hard in terms of who in this situation would still be actively, urgently looking for accommodation. Mm. And we went to the local authority, and lo and behold, they have got everybody from people who are homeless on the streets, which they want to get off the street, mm-hmm. to people who are working within the NHS and other essential services who do not want to live with their families during this period. They want to self-isolate. To people who have got domestic breakdowns and the situation's got so bad that they want to live apart, that it's not doing anything for family life by them being in the same dwelling. Mm. So it's not just the homeless side. There are other
factors.
And the people affected who are working people who you can help. And the local authority have given us, I think it's up to 8 referrals.
That's good.
Good. And to think that you're actually potentially moving in 8 people during a lockdown period because you're finding empty properties for them to move into.
Yeah.
Possibly that people would have found that hard to believe at the very beginning of this lockdown period. But, necessity is the mother of all invention. On the selling side, I found a lot of...
I was literally about to ask you about sales. Sorry, mate.
Okay. On the selling side, what I've done is I've gone back through properties where we got close to a sale in the last 3-4 weeks before lockdown, and anything that was within £5,000 to £10,000 short of where I believe the vendor would have done a deal, I've actually gone back to them and asked them to reconsider those offers made initially. Clearly, we will be in a period of readjustment in terms of property prices at the end of this lockdown. And that was certainly part of the conversation that I was having. And we've secured 4 sales, again, in the last 4 weeks, purely from having those kind of conversations with people that previously were falling just short of where they needed to be to buy the property. But by ensuring they were still interested and getting maybe people to take a new look at the world, because the world out there now is very different to where it was 4 or 5 weeks ago, deals were made on that basis.
In terms of improvements to your business, I mean, we've found a few great little learnings. I mean, screencasting from Zoom has been a revelation for us. We can now almost live edit final changes and sign off projects without having to export and send files back and forth with clients. So that's going to be a huge time saver. So Zoom have got us as a client, certainly for the next year at least, on a full basis, just because of that functionality that's built into this. So that's been a positive that's going to save us time come the revitalization of our business. But in terms of using technologies, have you, and also loaded question, have you been using video? I mean, you were an early adopter of video content and have won national awards as a result of working with us, but also doing your own content, which you came on one of our courses at the very beginning when we first started doing them, and have been an early adopter of that. Has that seen you improve business and improve visibility, and have you continued making content during this period?
Well, when I was giving you the other examples of where we've got rather creative, we are now making short film clips of properties that are vacant.
Brilliant.
And there are 2 currently potential applications going through because of people seeing those film clips online. So again, it's that type of work to camera we have never done before, not in the same way as that before. And it clearly makes you start to think differently about when things, as I say, go back to normal. A lot of these things will be learnings that we can apply then during a time, and also will be far more accepting. People will be far more accepting of those film clips than they would have been possibly previously. So from that point of view, we've done quite a bit. I think going forward, I think film work and doing work to camera, that type of work will only increase in terms of quantity. The genie's well and truly out of the bottle now. Yeah. And if estate and letting agents aren't engaging in that kind of work, then I think they will be found out.
But that's good for me. That's good for me, Vaughn. That's good, because we've been banging that drum for about 3 years. And a lot of early adopters like yourself, Pete Lawrence and Lawrence Rand, Adam Mackay, great agent in Sawbridgeworth, one of your counterparts, Zoe Bywater in Bedford, who I've been badgering for 2 years to make content, because we'd worked with her, and she'd been on our course but just hadn't had that impetus to go and actually make any content, is making loads, and she's now wondering why she's left it 2 years to do that. But no, I'm a big, that I'm a big believer in video content. We're not always, we don't always try and sell our content. Our mission is to make everyone make content, whether they make it to a professional standard or whether they make it to a semi-professional standard, having been on a course, or even if they make their own content just with their phones and a microphone, and we'll happily recommend kit, and and there's no cost for people to do that. We just want people to engage with their clients like we do, because we know that it has a real tangible benefit for business. And if the off-spin is that they want to use us, fantastic. And if they don't, that's totally cool. Our mission is to make video content, accessible, and also encourage as many people as possible to use it as a format. And I'm thrilled that you've been making content, in this period of your own. I'm thrilled that you're using some of those skills that you've honed, since coming on our course a couple of years ago. Nothing makes me happier than than hearing you doing that. And I think if lots of other people adopt that principle, I think they'll be successful come the end of this. But yeah, so no, fantastic. In terms of, just finally, just in terms of on a more personal note, how have you kept yourself sane?
Saner.
How have you kept yourself sane and active during this period? And what advice would you give to people who've got a couple more weeks at least of this?
I've got to be honest, I'm a bit spoiled in the sense I love being home. I'm very lucky. We've got a nice aspect of the rear garden and getting outside and eating outside because the weather's been particularly nice. I can't say that I've had any hardship with it. I've enjoyed it tremendously. And I've never spent so much time at home as I have done over the last 3 or 4 weeks ever. So it's been, that part of it's been very easy for me. My heart does go out to people who might be living in a different circumstance whereby, I don't know, a 2 or 3 bedroom flat in the middle of a town or big city with maybe 2 or 3 children under the age of 10. That must be very, very difficult, very, very demanding, with no outdoor space. So my heart goes out to those. But I'm lucky, as I say, I've managed to enjoy the experience, really. In terms of keeping healthy and fit, we take our dog for a walk. I've also got into doing 100 press-ups and 100 sit-ups every day, Chris. Something I will recommend to you. Not that you need it, but just to further...
I do need it. I think I could probably do about 10.
Well, not in one go. You can do them in sets.
Oh, that's obviously. Good then. Okay, good. There's 100 to go.
And I'm afraid I'm not. My left knee doesn't stand up to doing any middle distance running anymore. So my son and my daughter have been doing that. So I guess it's just trying to make the best of it. But as I say, I'm not underestimating the challenges and the problems maybe people who are living in different circumstances must have, they must have a very tough time in certain situations.
I think one of my overriding things is we've got children, as you know, 9 and 6, and so trying to do even this, for half an hour can be problematic. Not because they're being difficult or what have you; they just want your time. And I think we are like you. We haven't got a big garden, but we have got a garden. We haven't got a big house, but there are, more than a few rooms. We've got three bedroom house, so the girls can be upstairs while we're down. And they have been brilliant under the circumstances, but it is hard. And I think there's been a lot of noise, a lot from celebrity where, there's all these things that are saying, oh, if you don't come out of this lockdown having learned a new skill or having learned a new language or, what have you, then you've wasted your time. And I sort of look at them and go, cool, you've probably got a nanny or you've got no children. If you do, I sympathise wholeheartedly with those people who are working parents who are trying to continue to work and look after their children and do this thing. Have you heard of this thing? School. Apparently that's hard to do, the teaching thing. So a lot of my friends are teachers, and I just thought, straightforward, go to school, 12, 13 weeks a year, holiday, don't know what they're moaning about. They have my undying respect, because if I can get my children to do half an hour of English and maths, I'm doing really well. So when I go back to school, if I can hug all of the teachers, I will individually, and thank them profusely, and then hopefully they'll be able to redo all of the things that I've done wrong over the last couple of months. But anyway, Vaughn, mate, thanks a million for taking the time out to talk to me. It is great, genuinely brilliant to see you safe and well. And I wish you and your family the very, very best. And I dearly hope to see you soon in a post social distancing environment where I can give you a big squeeze and we can have a good beer together, because you are one of my favourite people. So thanks a million for today, and I wish you all the very, very best.
Thanks very much, Chris. My pleasure. All the best to you and the family as well.
Cheers, mate.